Goeiedag, fijn dat je kijkt. Dit is Patricia meets Lifechangers. En ook vandaag heb ik weer een bijzondere lifechanger hier bij mij in de studio. Hij komt helemaal uit de Verenigde Staten. Ik ben ontzettend blij dat hij bij mij is. Zijn naam is Gary Quinn. Hij is een internationaal auteur. Hij heeft inmiddels 7 boeken geschreven. En zijn laatste boek heet Sacred Happiness. We gaan het interview in het Engels doen. En ik hoop dat ik u mee mag nemen op reis met deze bijzondere gast. Gary, welcome.
Thank you, Patricia. It's so great to see you in person.
Yeah, it's so great to see you as well.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited that you're here with us today.
Yes.
So Gary, this program is Lifechangers, and as you know, we also always ask everybody, so what happened? What happened in your life? What's your life story? So Gary, let's just begin when you were just a little boy.
You know, when I was young, I always had some kind of knowledge of tuning into other matrix energy. I didn't know what it was, but I could look at a person and I could know what was going to happen for that person. I remember when I was 6 years old in school, I looked at this boy in my class and I just tuned into his life and I saw him dead.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, ooh, that's not a good thing to do. And about 6 months later, he died in a car accident. And then I got really scared and I shut it down. And I did not know what it was, but I thought that's not a good thing to have. So when I was 13 years old, it started coming up again, this intuition, this energy. And I would say things to my mother, and she would say, "How do you know?" I said, "I don't know." I would say, "This person's going to call you," or "This man's going to drop off this information to you," and it would happen. And one of her friends, he was a doctor, and he would take me to the horse races, and people would bet on the horse, and so he would say, "Pick the horse. Which is the horse?" And I would close my eyes and I would just tune in the sheet that had the names of the horses. I said, "This one." It was the worst horse, and he gave me money. He put the money on it, and he won, and it was like $800.
Oh, wow.
And he said, "Magic boy, magic boy." And I said, "Well, I guess it is magic in some way," but I just felt it. And then I went on with my swimming training for the Olympics since I was age 7 until I was 21. And I think when you're swimming in a pool, you have to leave your body because over and over the laps, and I was with 2 Olympic coaches, so I was in the water probably 5 hours a day, morning and afternoon practice, 7 days a week. So I had to learn how to check out. So I was really good at swimming and not being able to, I think it was a form of leaving my body, meditation in some ways. Then it became a terrible habit that I couldn't be grounded in this world. I was in school and I would be somewhere else. And so this went on until I quit swimming, which was 21.
Why did you quit swimming?
I was having shoulder problems and we were overtraining. And the year that we were set to go to the Olympics was the year the U.S. president canceled the Russian games for us. The games went on, but without America. He boycotted. So I just said, I can't do this anymore. It was just too strenuous on my body. And mentally, I think I was burnt out. And then I went into show business from my swimming. And that opened a door for me coaching Stephanie Powers, which I just had on my podcast.
Oh, yeah,
Heart to Heart.
That's amazing.
And so I was, training different people. They hired me to teach them how to swim.
You were then already living in Los Angeles, or
no? I was still living where I was training, but they came to film an episode of this. It was a competition of celebrity. It was just called, what was it? Not Athletes of the Stars. it was celebrity athletes of the stars, basically all competing at different shows, Dallas. So I coached, many people from Dallas, and it was a way that it got me to show business
It
because
was like a Dancing with the Stars, but
yes,
then with swimming.
but yeah. So they did 3, but this one, the lady introduced me to the producer, and they said, would you come to Los Angeles? And that was how I got to Los Angeles. And then I got into Paramount Studio, which was from the 2 celebrities that I was working with. And then I started working for, different celebrities. I worked for Carrie Fisher from Star Wars. I mean, the list is endless of everybody I worked for. But then I decided I need to write a script. So then I wrote a script, and then they bought it. And I was like the second youngest to get into the Writers Guild. And I wasn't sure that I wanted to be, I didn't know what I wanted to be. I just knew I was fascinated with the entertainment business. My first day at Paramount Studio, I met everybody that you see on TV, from Star Trek, Spock. I met Lucille Ball. I met so many people, and I just thought, oh, this is my tribe. I want to be here. And I felt
You fell in love.
I fell in love, and I decided that was going to be where I planted my feet.
Yeah.
And so then from there, I was always very spiritual. I would listen to many spiritual teachers, and one of my bosses was this actress on a TV series with Danny DeVito and Tony Danza, and we would go to spiritual things at night. They would have these events, and we went to see this woman who would channel a Chinese man she would change shape. Her name was Reverend Rosalind Bruyere, and she was in a movie. She was the consultant on a movie that was about the afterlife. And this woman, on a full moon, she would sit on a stage, and she would become this Chinese master and be speaking in a Chinese accent. It was really quite amazing. And so I studied some, and then it was just a natural progression. And then, it opened up some doors for me to move to Paris, France. And that was the connection I had with Archangel Michael in Notre Dame Cathedral. I was there for a music contract, and that didn't happen. And so I learned how to connect with the spiritual connection of life. And I think it was a form of me, because I didn't really meditate. And I started meditating in the church, in Notre Dame Cathedral, because I didn't know where I was going to live, what I was going to do. So I basically would go there every day for 3-5 hours a day, sitting in the pew waiting for an answer. I literally moved to Paris, and the producer called me and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, your record contract is canceled." I go, "What? What do you mean? I moved here with 2 suitcases, a one-way ticket, and I'm 26 years old, and why am I here?" So it was, I think it was the most scariest time in my life, but the most growing, of really trusting yourself, trusting the universe, trusting life. And I wasn't really religious, but I think going to Notre Dame Cathedral, it made you just feel very centered. So I sat there for many hours, 3 weeks. It was a Thursday afternoon, and I remember sitting in this pew, and this light came across the top of me, and it spoke, and it said, you're not here to learn about, you're not here to work in entertainment. And I go, oh, who is this? It was a telepathic voice. And I answered, I said, well, who are you? and it said, "I'm Archangel Michael." And the energy was so intense, Patricia. It was like a light rain shower of love and support. And so I said, "Well, I'll do whatever you want me to do." And the voice said, "Okay, you're going to learn about us." And I ended up doing that. And I walked back to my hotel, not my hotel, my apartment I was staying in. And the phone rang, and the only one person who I knew that lived in Paris said, "Do you need a free place to live? Apartment for a year."
A free space in
Yes,
Paris.
in Montmartre. So I said, "Yes, what do I have to do?" He said, "Nothing." He said, "The producer I work for, who was an American producer, had rented an apartment for a husband and wife who were writing a movie called Nashville. It was the sequel. And they said, we don't want to come to Paris. We're going to write it in Los Angeles." So he said, "You can stay there for a year." So I lived I lived in Paris for 1 year.
How was it?
Incredible. I think living in a new place, a new country, is really life-changing, because you're forced to not only trust yourself, but to experience a new way of living.
What happened after that year?
I moved back to Los Angeles, went right back into the entertainment world, and I negated...
Left Michael, you said, okay, on hold.
I put it on hold, and I had a business partner, and we started a company. We represented directors, writers, and actors, and we were really busy and successful. A lot of our actors were on television series, and I had one actress who knew I had this gift, and it was a TV show called Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman with Jane Seymour.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
So whenever there was a problem, they would call me, and I would go to the set, and I would go calm everybody down, especially Jane and my client, who was also in the show. And my client would say, do more, do more. Like, what are you getting? What are you sensing? And I would say, I see this, or I see you eating strawberries. And she said, oh my God, I just bought some at the Country Mart there. And this went on, and then I already was working with celebrities, and I started giving private sessions. I didn't know what they were. I just thought, come sit down and I'll tune in. And my very first clients were clients that I was working with, Nastasia Kinski. I had, Robert Downey Jr. I was working with for a little while. I was also working with Seal, Linda Gray from Dallas. So I was already in the mix, and these people were supporting me.
And it was really, you call them sittings.
Sittings. There was
That's
private session.
Yeah.
I mean, I really wasn't sure what they were, because I didn't know what they were. People would sit down with me, and I would just start talking. It's almost like I would plug into their energy, and I would give them the A to Z of their life, whether it was the names of their guides, future things, events, names. And I'm not a medium, but sometimes their loved one would come through. And I think because I was so open, it would just open them up. And I did this, I started just on a Friday night or a Saturday. And then I started getting booked solid for 3 nights. Then I had to leave my company because I couldn't do both. And I was kind of burnt out. So I told my business partner, I'm done. And we closed the company. He went back to England, and I started doing this full time. And I had one client that said, you should write a book. I'd never written a book. So I wrote 2 chapters, and magically the guides brought in an agent. The next thing you know, I go to New York City, and I sign a big deal at Random House. And they were only going to give me 2 cities, like a tour, Los Angeles and San Francisco, because I live in Los Angeles. And I said, no, I'm going to do a 37-city book tour. They thought I was quite mad. So I came home, and I made T-shirts that said, may the angels be with you, World Book Tour. I picked every city I wanted to go to, from Chicago, London, anywhere around the United States. And I sent the T-shirts out. One lady responded and said, "Oh, this is what I'm doing. How do I get involved in your tour?" And I said, "Call Random House." And she made a 37-city book tour for me in the summer. I went to every country, not every country. I did go. I started in Idaho, Sun Valley, Idaho, which I'm going there 2 weeks from now. Then from there, I went all of New York, all of Chicago, Atlanta, you name it. Then I went to London. Then I went to Australia, Sydney. It was a dream come true for the work. And I would run into Deepak Chopra and all these famous people, and they go, "How do you have 37 cities?"
Yeah, because I have.
I
So
said, "I don't know."
what was the name of the first book, Gary?
May the Angels Be With You. Yeah.
Wow.
So
that was because it was on a T-shirt.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And it's published here. It was my first book here. And it was sold in probably 14 countries. So every country that it was sold in, I got to go and do events. So that's how I started coming to Europe. But yeah, I think, as life changers, everybody's a life changer. And I think when we start to look within and we start to look at the opportunities, the growth that we have, that every day is something special. And the book Sacred Happiness is about really looking at your life from all the good things and the blessings that you already have, as opposed to, oh, if I had more of this, I'd feel better. If I had this, I'd feel better. So it's really looking within yourself of all the gratitude that we have and not letting yourself get swayed by one way or the other. But I think, for me, it was about really looking within and making myself create something where I would be feeling more solid with myself and stop looking for something outside to fix me or to do something for me. So it's also, the bottom line is love.
The bottom line is always love.
Yeah.
So when you wrote the first book, many followed. Was it, did it just came every time you wrote a new book? Was it like...
No, there were many years there was nothing coming. And there was a gap of maybe 3.5 years. There was no book. And I go, I don't know what to write about. Then I started jumping into private sessions more and more. I love sessions with clients because I think they stretch you and they make you grow. And then I would get inspired to write more books. And so what I was going through is what the books I was writing about. I remember I was writing the second book. Random House wanted more angel books, and I said no. And Random House dropped me in America because I wouldn't write another book. I did in the UK, but my second book was a different title. It was about love, forgiveness, and truth. They didn't want it. They said, no, we don't want this. So I go, okay, well, I'm not going to be with Random House. And I had to wait 3.5 years before it was a British publisher picked it up, Hachette. And then that started kind of the movement of what I'm doing now. And then more books followed. I have one that came out called Believe and Receive. I have another one that's called The Yes Frequency. I have another one called 31 Days to Personal Success. Some of them are in different countries, but they're not in just America. I have a lot in America, but in different countries they want, like I have 3 books in Japan that are nowhere else but in Japan.
Yeah, because they like you there.
Yeah.
You're a star in Japan.
Yeah,
huh?
Japan was one of my first countries I started going to. And you know, I can do no wrong in Italy also. Everything I've ever written, books, audio, is in Italy. You know, I have another book coming. Sacred Happiness came out in Italy last year, but I have another new book coming out in a couple months in Italy called Pocketbook Wisdom. And so I'm always inspired by the people that kind of tell me, you should do this or you should do that. So I listen, you know. But I'm really about really transforming people's minds and really looking within yourself, of your audience or people that you're in your circle, that each one of us can make a difference. And that means make a difference not only in your life, but everybody else's life. So you really have to take responsibility and say, what am I doing in my life that is important? And I think your show is really positive because, you know, life-changing moments can be anything, really. But we all have to make a difference, I think. That's our purpose in this lifetime, is to really not give up and really do something that expands our life. I mean, you have a great show, but you're a great painter, you're a great artist, you're a great, you know, speaker, you know. I think everybody has different talents, and I think we just have to utilize those and not worry about what people think.
No, I like that.
You know?
That's true. And for me, as I said at the beginning, I'm really happy that you're here with me. Yeah, you're also a life changer. You know, it's like you tell your story, and also for the people that are watching, you worked with the great ones on this planet, but you're Gary.
Yeah,
You're not arrogant. You're just
normal.
but just normal, just being humble,
Yeah.
and just going on, and also doing the everyday life, because that's what I like to get into the new book that is published in Holland, Sacred Happiness. Is that also for you, as you said, maybe for 3.5 years, when you couldn't write anything, you went into personal coaching or personal sessions. How was that for you? Was it also
Healing.
okay?
It was a way to heal, I think, when I was listening to other people's issues, how I could help them. But also, Sacred Happiness came about because during the pandemic, I came down with this terrible pain in my stomach.
Oh.
And I didn't know what it was. And I've never gone, you know, I'm an ex-athlete, so I never go to doctors.
No.
I totally believe in holistic everything. My grandmother had a health food store. My uncles created this organic bread that was famous in America. And for me, doctors weren't an option. And I didn't know what I had, but it was so painful I couldn't get out of bed. And I didn't feel like writing. I didn't feel like going to see people. So the Sacred Happiness for me was about something's wrong with me. And at that point, Patricia, I thought I was done. And I started thinking,
Wow.
I'm not going to be here anymore. This pain. I went to some doctors and they didn't know what I had. And I started giving things away. I gave a new computer to my friend's son. I gave books. I gave clothes. I really thought, this is it. Who's going to clean up the mess?
Yeah.
And so I then went to a lot of holistic doctors, and finally they diagnosed it with, called SIBO. It's a overgrown bacteria in one's intestines, and the pain is like, what happens is you're like a blood pressure, but there's like so much air in your body, you feel like you want to explode. The pain is so bad, and so I had to go breathe in these tubes at the hospital at Cedars of Sinai in Beverly Hills, and you breathe in the tube, and they measure your hydrogen and your, you know, your normal, and so a normal diagnosis is 20/20. Mine was 78. So
Whoa.
they wanted to give me all these antibiotics, and my mom said, no, you need to go to the OHI, which is the Optimum Health Institute, where many people have gone to cure themselves of everything. So basically, it was about really getting healthy. And I did wheatgrass, fasted on nothing but cucumber and raw foods. And after 2 weeks, I went back, and my oxygen level and hydrogen level was 28. Normal is 20. So this book is about really how we want to really change our life, and that we're lucky for where we are in our lives right now, and that wherever you are in your life, make it a sacred place and really not give up on yourself and really keep going. And really, love is all there is, really. That's the bottom message for anything, for any book, any teaching spiritually, or any connection with your loved ones. So that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I think love is the highest frequency.
Absolutely.
I like it, sacred happiness. So it is, we live in a time where a lot of people are depressed, and they look at the news and they're depressed about their lives. And many of us were depressed for what we don't have, or for what we had but we don't have anymore.
Correct.
So, yeah, and it's great that you. I think it feels maybe that you're giving us something to hold on to.
If you have life, you have purpose.
Yeah.
And I think people take life for granted, and I think we have to get excited about ourselves again for whatever you're doing, whether you're making pasta, you're making waffles or whatever. You've got to be joyful in everything you do.
Yeah.
And that's what makes sacred happiness come back home to you.
Yeah. So, Gary Quinn, so it's been an honor that you were here with us.
Thank you.
International author of 7 books, and you're doing some sessions here in Amsterdam. I'm going to or not in Amsterdam, but in Holland.
Yes.
I'm putting everything on the website.
Excellent.
And also your Instagram, so if people want to connect or follow you.
Absolutely.
Then,
you can follow me, and I'll be doing something at the Niederzand Beach.
And there's one more thing.
Yes.
Before we go,
yes.
Please promise me when you come back, can we see you again?
Absolutely. My pleasure. Absolutely.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you so much.
Ja, dank u wel. Nou, ja, liefde. Dus de kracht van liefde. En ik vond het een fijn en heerlijk gesprek. Vol inspiratie van een lifechanger. En u heeft het gehoord, we zijn allemaal lifechangers. Goed, voor vandaag zit het erop. Ik wil u bedanken voor het kijken. En volgende week heb ik een nieuwe lifechanger hier bij mij aan de tafel. Tot snel. Dag.